Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. Always be prepared, echoed the Boy Scouts' timeless motto. Yet for Leo, it seemed the Scout law had taken a different turn. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful. The words rang hollow as he stared at the email on his wife's iPhone. Normally, he wouldn't pry into her personal affairs, but with her upcoming trip and his forgetfulness about the details, curiosity had gotten the better of him. He wrestled with conflicting emotions. His wife, unaware of his intrusion, had left her phone unprotected, assuming his integrity would deter any snooping. And yet here he was, grappling with guilt and a sense of betrayal. Their relationship had hit rough patches lately, arguments brewing over forgotten details and misplaced attentions. As she prepared to embark on her longest journey since their marriage, Leo contemplated a gesture of love, sending flowers to Paris, the city of love. But beneath his desire for romance lay a seed of doubt, watered by the discovery on her phone. Was their love truly as steadfast as he believed, or was he merely clinging to a naive ideal? Leo grappled with the weight of his thoughts, unsure of his next move in this delicate dance of trust and suspicion. In the famed city of love, Leo realized he wouldn't be the object of his wife's affection. No, that honor belonged to Terry, who would accompany her on the upcoming trip. After unlocking his wife Marion's phone with their wedding date as the passcode, Leo stumbled upon a series of explicit emails exchanged between Marion and Terry over the past few weeks. They detailed romantic rendezvous planned for their time in Paris, walks along the Champs-Élysées, moonlit boat rides on the Seine. Equally astonishing as the affair itself was the reckless manner in which Marion and Terry conducted their correspondence, using their work email accounts. Both legal professionals, they should have been well aware of the risks involved. Leo, Marion, and Terry had collectively trudged through numerous document reviews in high-stakes litigation cases, sifting through countless emails for discovery purposes. Tales of indiscretions among colleagues were not uncommon in legal circles, prompting frantic efforts from lawyers to mitigate any potential fallout. Leo's lack of attention when Marion briefed him about the trip and the hotel's name stemmed from an unsettling feeling. He couldn't pinpoint it then, but his instincts were on high alert. Years of legal practice had honed his ability to detect deception and evasion, whether from clients or fellow attorneys. Something felt amiss during Marion's initial discussion about the trip, a mundane arbitration case that conveniently overshadowed any enjoyment of Paris. Her avoidance of eye contact and casual tone struck Leo as peculiar. Paris held a special place in his heart, and they had often dreamt of exploring it together, especially since Marion had never been. Leo had found Marion's response peculiar before, but he never imagined this worst-case scenario. The email exchange he was now reading felt like a dagger to the heart. "Why don't you just lose the Boy Scout so we can spend more time together without wording?" Terry's message from last night burned on the screen. "He makes me feel safe," Marion replied. "So why do you cheat on him with me behind his back every chance you get?" "Because I like it," followed by a smiley face emoji. Leo felt a whirlwind of emotions. His immediate reaction, as a seasoned litigator, was to preserve the evidence. Printing out the exchange on the basement's Wi-Fi printer seemed like the first logical step. As he tucked the printed email into his computer bag, Leo contemplated his next move. The urge to lash out physically gnawed at him, but he knew better. Thinking was his forte. He was paid to use his brain, not his muscles. With Marion out for a run and due back soon, he had to think quickly. Before diving into contemplation, he had to wrap up the mission, locating the hotel. However, this wasn't a jaunt for delivering flowers. Unsure of its ultimate purpose, he felt a pressing need for this information, perhaps as a target. There it was, La Clef Tour Eiffel, nestled near the Trocadero, just across the river from the iconic Eiffel Tower. A mere 5-minute stroll from the International Chamber of Commerce, where Marion and Terry would be engrossed in their arbitration matter with the team, stealing moments between their duties. With the hotel secured, he swiftly delved into a computer search on Virginia divorce law. Though he vaguely recalled snippets from the bar exam 5 years ago, a refresher was prudent. Adultery emerged as grounds for divorce, potentially influencing matters such as alimony and property division. Yet defenses existed, one being condonation, the act of discovering adultery, and then resuming intimacy and cohabitation, which could absolve the accused. Thus, he needed to depart the scene promptly sans confrontation. Not just yet. His strategy involved blindsiding her with overwhelming shock and awe, avoiding any unexpected variables. He aimed to dominate the battlefield of this crumbling marriage. To achieve this, he'd resort to deception. Though at odds with the Scout law, this was warfare. Churchill's adage echoed in his mind. In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. Leo's falsehoods now served a higher purpose, unbound by any oath. He ascended to the master bedroom, initiating the task of packing with brisk efficiency. Suitcases arranged neatly by the front door marked the completion of this chore, as he meticulously gathered crucial documents ranging from financial statements like bank and credit card records, 401 and IRA statements, car titles, pay stubs, mortgage details, to Marian's latest student loan balance sheet. He sensed her return from her jog. Emerging from his basement office, he detected the sound of her presence in the kitchen. Adopting a facade of disarray, he encountered her sipping on a Gatorade, her brown hair pulled back into a ponytail framing her features attractively. Yet beneath the surface, he harbored the bitter realization that the once cherished love between them had withered away, poisoned by her betrayal. "Guess what? I'm off to Paris," he announced, his grin tinged with irony. Marian's complexion paled, her cerulean eyes widening. "What? Paris, Virginia?" Her shock dissipated swiftly. "James just phoned." Leo elaborated. "We've got depositions for my insurance case, and we need to prep the witness. Apparently, we lost a motion to compel, and the judge is livid. The whole discovery schedule's a mess. Looks like I'll be on the road for weeks, though I might swing by occasionally to throw in a load of laundry." "Poor thing." Marian sympathized, her expression appropriately concerned. "Maybe your firm's hiring. I prefer your Paris any day," Leo suggested, observing concern flicker across her features once more. But then she smirked. "Send over your resume. Who knows, you might fit our pedigree," she quipped, a subtle jab at Leo's alma mater, which lagged behind hers in the academic hierarchy. With a twinge of guilt, she reached out as if to offer a hug, but Leo swiftly turned away, retreating to his office before she could close the distance. The urge to lash out at her resurfaced, and he struggled to keep it in check. Emerging once more, Marian inquired about dinner plans. "Can't stay. I'll grab something on the go. James needed me on the road right away," he replied, moving briskly through the kitchen. Marian trailed after him, her expression tinged with concern. As he gathered his belongings and headed out, she leaned in for a goodbye kiss. "Apologies. I think I might be coming down with a cold. My throat's been scratchy this afternoon. Could be allergies, but I don't want you getting sick," he explained. She followed him to the car as he loaded his things. "When will you be back?" "Probably not until Friday. We're headed to Roanoke after Paris. Then it's Baltimore the following week." Leo couldn't shake the feeling that she was already plotting in his absence. Her eyes flicked away, and he couldn't help but wonder if she was considering the opportunities his departure might afford her. Backing out of the driveway, he waved goodbye, hoping she'd chalk up his distraction to work and annoyance at being called in on a Saturday. His acting skills were stretched thin, but he couldn't shake the suspicion that she was already making plans, perhaps even contemplating inviting Terry over. Leo drove until he reached a nearby strip mall housing a coffee shop. Like many lawyers, he found clarity amidst the words on a page. Sipping his coffee, he began jotting down a list of tasks. It struck him suddenly that reconciliation hadn't once crossed his mind. It simply wasn't an option. Retribution was inevitable. The only uncertainty lay in its severity. His train of thought was abruptly halted by his phone's ringtone, a number he didn't recognize flashing on the screen. Impatiently, he answered, "Yes. Mr. Clark, I'm Kenny Torres. Though we haven't met, I'll get straight to the point. I stumbled upon your number through some old property records. I specialize in purchasing older homes and replacing them with McMansions. I understand it's not the most beloved profession, but people tend to appreciate the sizable check I offer," Torres explained in rapid succession. Leo barely had time to process the proposal before thoughts raced through his mind. His home wasn't just old, it was cherished. How dare someone discuss tearing it down? But then his rational side intervened, and Leo prompted, "Well, I'm interested in buying your home for demolition. While I can't promise a McMansion in its place, given the uncertainties of construction permits, I believe I can offer you a very fair price, provided you and your wife are inclined to sell," Torres concluded. Leo struggled to contain a Grinch-like grin creeping onto his face. Marion had chosen their home just before their wedding. It was an older ranch-style house with a charming yard that bordered a wooded area with a babbling stream. Despite its proximity to major roads, it exuded tranquility. What truly won Marion over was the treehouse nestled in the yard, visible from the master bedroom window, a symbol of future children. For Leo, the appeal lay in its affordability and convenient location, a mere 20-minute drive to a major metro parking lot, followed by a 30-minute train ride to work. It offered a decent commute by local standards. "Mr. Torres, my schedule's a bit unpredictable over the next few days, so I can't guarantee access to the property," Leo informed him. "Call me Kenny. I don't need an interior tour. As I mentioned, it's slated for demolition, and I scoped it out externally," Kenny replied. "Could we meet Sunday morning, Kenny?" Leo inquired. "Of course. By the way, I'll likely handle the closing myself with the power of attorney for my wife. She's swamped with work-related matters," Leo added. "No problem. I'll provide the necessary paperwork," Kenny assured him. As Leo jotted down the details, a plan began to take shape. Marion had always felt secure with her Boy Scout husband, unaware that Lord Baden-Powell's scouting roots lay in military tactics, stealth, cunning, and self-reliance. It was all about the element of surprise, and she would never see it coming until it was too late. But first, reconnaissance. Leo disposed of his empty coffee cup and sought the privacy of his car. Retrieving his phone, he dialed a familiar number. "Julian," he greeted as the call connected. "I need a favor, and I need it urgently." Julian Price, a private investigator, had crossed paths with Leo during his 5 years of corporate legal work, where Leo also dedicated time to pro bono cases. It aligned with his sense of public duty, offering both billable hour credits and invaluable courtroom experience. Julian had been recommended by a law school peer to assist in a harrowing divorce case involving stepfather abuse. His evidence had expedited the proceedings and garnered positive attention for Leo. Listening intently, Julian absorbed Leo's explanation. "So, you suspect your wife's planning to bring him into your bed tonight? Is she really that audacious?" Julian inquired. "Arrogant. She was a top student in law school. Thinks she's infallible," Leo replied grimly. "I'll handle this one myself. I owe you for the Lopez divorce case. It brought me a ton of positive attention. My phone's been ringing non-stop," Julian remarked. "I appreciate it, Julian," Leo acknowledged. "By the way, there's a treehouse in the backyard that might be useful. It offers a direct view into the master bedroom, and she tends to leave the shades open during intimate moments. Used to unsettle me, but whatever ignites her passion, you know. You can access it by crossing through the woods and hopping over the stream after dark. No fences, no dogs. There's a service road on the other side where you can park." "Thanks. I'm going to set up a camera outside, facing the front of the house, to monitor who's coming and going," Leo informed Julian. "Fine," Julian replied succinctly. "And you're working with Mike for the divorce, correct?" "Yes and yes," Julian confirmed. All right, I know Mike's preferred method for the affidavit and report. If you're right about this, we'll have our answers soon, Julian assured him. Leo then contacted Mike. Is this about the law school reunion, Leo? I've had 5 calls already about contributing to their capital fund. Mike answered. Nope, I need to hire you. Marion's cheating, and I want to expose her, Leo revealed bluntly. After bringing Mike up to speed, Leo was met with a practical response. Come in tomorrow. I know it's Sunday, but I have some paperwork to catch up on in the office anyway. We might as well get started on this. It seems like you've covered the morality clause. Mike will handle the burden of proof. The trickier part will be the financial settlement. She's a high-powered lawyer, so she'll likely prolong the process with the backing of her firm. Leave that to me, Leo asserted. I believe we can resolve this amicably. So, you're not looking to burn the bridge, but okay. Let's see what you come up with, Mike conceded. Leo's final call required a delicate touch. Hello, a voice answered tentatively. Leona, it's Leo, he said. The line was met with a pregnant pause before Leona finally responded. You son of a bitch. Nice to hear from you too, honey, after all this time. Leo quipped. What do you want, Leo? After everything. Leona's tone was terse. I need your help, Leo admitted. I thought Marion was your partner in crime, Leona retorted. It's about Marion. She's been unfaithful, Leo confessed. What a shock. I can't emotionally support you anymore. I've moved on, Leona stated firmly. And I bet he's a Lucas supporter. Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for our mistakes and how they damaged our friendship. I regret letting Marion push you out of my life when there might have been a chance for us to reconcile. But as a friend, I need your assistance now. Ashhole, Leona shot back. Leo allowed her anger to simmer before she asked, What do you need, Leo? He explained, and there was a moment of silence on the line, followed by laughter. I'm in, she finally said once her laughter subsided, though he could still detect the smile in her voice. You always did know how to make me laugh. Thanks, Leona. Once everything settles, I owe you a night out to meet Mr. Lucas and congratulate him on his excellent taste. With you as my date, Leo quipped. It's a date, she agreed. Needing a place to lay low and strategize, Leo checked into a long-term stay hotel beyond the Beltway in Fairfax, far from his and Marion's usual haunts. After settling in, he ventured out for a meal. Though not particularly hungry, he knew he needed something to absorb the alcohol he planned to consume. Across the street from the hotel stood El Mariachi restaurant. It seemed suitable. Beans and cheese would be easy to purge later if necessary. As he was seated in a booth, Leo noticed the bartender glancing in his direction. Though vaguely familiar, he dismissed the thought, already overwhelmed with concerns. Seeing pupusas on the menu indicated the restaurant was Central American, masquerading as Mexican, an illusion most Americans fell for. Leo ordered some cheap tequila along with his food, anticipating a brutal hangover the next day as part of his penance. However, the waitress returned with a bottle of top-shelf tequila and a highball glass. When Leo glanced up, she pointed to the bartender, who saluted him. Leo acknowledged the bartender's salute and poured himself a hearty drink once the bartender resumed serving other patrons. It took a moment, but Leo eventually recalled who he was. He remembered the bartender as one of the spectators who had attended both the Lopez divorce hearings and the criminal proceedings he had been involved in. The man always sat alone in the last row, never accompanied by anyone. Though Gloria's daughter had once hugged him when Leo inquired about his identity, Gloria had grown unusually quiet, simply stating that he was a family friend. Leo ate in silence, jotting down notes on a legal pad and steadily consuming more tequila. When the waitress cleared his plates, he excused himself to use the restroom. The room seemed to sway as he walked, prompting him to lean against the wall for support while he relieved himself. Upon returning to his booth, he noticed the bartender seated opposite him. "Senior Leo, good to see you." The bartender greeted, extending his hand for a firm shake. Leo obliged and took his seat, waiting for the conversation to unfold. "I never properly thanked you for helping my cousin with that scumbag she was married to," the bartender began. Leo attempted to downplay his role, but the bartender brushed off his protest. He got what was coming to him in prison, badly beaten, the bartender revealed with a faint smile, sending a chill down Leo's spine. "I hadn't heard," Leo replied, his unease growing. The bartender shrugged nonchalantly. "Old news now. But what brings you to El Mariachi alone on a Saturday night? Where's your lovely wife?" Leo met the bartender's gaze, noting the knowing smile on his face. It wasn't mocking, but rather hinted at a deeper understanding. Leo found himself bewildered by the bartender's peculiar question. How did he even know about Leo's marital status? Then, a memory stirred. Marian had surprised him at one of the hearings, planting a kiss on him afterward. The bartender must have witnessed it from the courtroom. "We're going through some issues," Leo admitted, seeing no point in concealing the truth. "Like she's seeing someone else?" the bartender inquired, his smile betraying a deeper understanding. Leo was momentarily stunned into silence. "I'm not a lawyer, Don Leonard, but I do know that if you want to keep a secret, you shouldn't leave it written down for all to see," the bartender remarked, gesturing to Leo's notepad. It was filled with notes on adultery, doodles depicting Terry being stabbed, the name Marian with a slash through it, and a to-do list featuring the phrase, "Burn the bitch." Leo shrugged, acknowledging his lapse in operational security. At least he wasn't violating any client confidences. "In your position, every man must question what he truly desires. What is it you really want, Senior Leo? What would be your ultimate revenge beyond money?" the bartender inquired. Without hesitation, Leo replied, "I want to confront her." The bartender's smile widened, followed by a chuckle. "My friend, you're not thinking clearly. Violence leads to prison. You don't want that. Unless it's just to visit your clients and then leave, am I right?" Leo nodded in agreement. "But perhaps I can be of assistance. You aided my cousin with her dilemma. She could have sought my help, but for various reasons she didn't. Yet you stepped in and handled it," the bartender acknowledged. Leo attempted to interject, emphasizing that while he had enlisted Julian to gather evidence, it was the authorities who had conducted the bulk of the investigative work. He also mentioned leveraging connections within his firm to ensure his client received proper treatment from the legal system, but the bartender brushed off his protests. "Helping individuals like my cousin doesn't go unnoticed. I owe you a debt on behalf of my family, and I always repay my debts. It seems you could use some assistance," the bartender insisted. Leo regarded him with curiosity. "I'm sorry, I don't recall your name." The bartender's smile turned into a shark-like grin. "Some call me El Diablo." "The devil?" Leo's eyebrows shot up in surprise. The bartender nodded. "To those who don't fancy me, to my friends, I'm Juan Martinez." Leo couldn't help but smile in return. What does it take to get a favor from the devil? Sell my soul. El Diablo's grin faded, mirrored by Leo's own expression. "Let's be serious. You're a lawyer. You don't have a soul," El Diablo quipped, quickly followed by a playful smile to signify his jest. "Consider it professional courtesy, Senior Leo. Now provide me with your address, your wife's name, and her daily routine," El Diablo instructed. "What do you intend to do?" Leo inquired cautiously. "I have some ideas, but as the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. I believe it's best for you to remain blissfully unaware. Ensure you can account for your whereabouts for the coming months. Get a burner phone so we can keep in touch. Leave the number here at the bar, and refrain from returning. It's for the best," El Diablo advised. Leo confided in El Diablo about hiring the private investigator, his strategy to stay away from the house until Marian's departure for France, and her upcoming travel arrangements. El Diablo remained silent about the Paris hotel specifics. "Just one question, Senior Leo," El Diablo began, his smile replaced by a serious expression as he locked eyes with Leo. "Is there any chance of reconciliation, forgiveness, mercy? I don't want to hear about second thoughts later." Leo met his gaze, taking a moment to steady his emotions. The truth was clear to him. Trust and loyalty, once pillars of his marriage, were now absent. Marian had extinguished the love in his heart, leaving behind only resentment. He knew that with time and reflection, his indifference would deepen, but that moment had yet to arrive. "None," Leo asserted firmly. El Diablo visibly relaxed. "Good, don't worry about a thing." When the waitress brought the bill, El Diablo dismissed her but allowed Leo to tip generously. He also permitted Leo to take the tequila bottle, cautioning him to drink in moderation as he needed his wits for the upcoming challenges. Surprisingly, Leo awoke Sunday morning with a manageable hangover and arrived at Mike's law office promptly at 10 o'clock a.m. Julian was already there, ready with the evidence. "Sorry, Leo," Julian began, his tone solemn. "She's definitely with this guy, in your bed. He was there for hours, even after I left this morning. We captured high-quality footage. I made a copy for you, but it might be best not to watch." Mike interjected, "You're better off not seeing it. We don't need you doing anything reckless and getting arrested." Leo accepted the DVD from Julian. "Just give me the summary." "I followed your instructions, got up in the treehouse, and they were all over each other," Julian recounted. "Clear shots of their faces and other details. It seems purely physical. They hardly interact. I don't know if that affects your plans." "My plans remain unchanged," Leo declared resolutely. "Apologies for the interruption. Anyway, I've personally met Marian at your party last year, so I can positively identify her. We've tracked the guy's license plates, Kerry Rodriguez. He's confirmed to be associated with her. While we're unsure of the duration, the evidence seems clear and convincing to me. Oh, and we've installed a camera at the front of your house, covering the driveway and garage, so we can monitor their comings and goings. I'll send you the remote link to the live stream on our secure server via email. I've spoken with Mike, and I'll draft a report and supporting affidavit for him to file. My apologies once again, man," Julian concluded, shaking hands with both Mike and Leo before exiting the office. "So what's the plan?" Mike inquired. "We'll file for divorce on grounds of adultery, but don't serve her," Leo responded confidently. Mike regarded Leo with a neutral expression. "You're putting a lot of trust in this." "When you say that, I start to feel queasy." "I don't want you doing anything reckless," Mike cautioned. "I'm confident things will unfold smoothly," Leo assured him. Mike grimaced. "Just remember, Leo, I'm not well versed in criminal law. If you find yourself in a jam, I may not be able to help. You'll be pleasantly surprised," Leo stated as he exited the office. Leo's next destination was a meeting with Kenny Torres. It proved to be highly productive, with Leo discovering that they could sell the house for over $100,000 more than the mortgage without factoring in real estate agent commissions. Marian would be delighted if she knew. Leo pledged to return with the necessary paperwork promptly to finalize the deal. As Leo left Kenny's office, he checked his phone. No messages or calls. She must still be with Terry. Leo seized the opportunity to call his boss, James, and delivered an ultimatum. 2 weeks off immediately or he quit. James, in a panic, agreed, realizing Leo's critical role in the ongoing case. Luckily, they were in a slow period, affording James the flexibility to grant Leo some time off. With the groundwork laid, Leo returned to his hotel to focus on his preparations. By Monday evening, he was ready. Despite Marian's voicemails on Sunday and Monday nights, he remained silent, conserving his energy for Tuesday morning. Thanks to Julian's camera position at the front of the house, Leo was aware that Terry had spent Monday night there and would likely leave around 8 o'clock for work, followed by Marian at 8:30 a.m. Thus, at 7 o'clock, Leo entered through the front door, announcing, "Honey, I'm home." He heard sudden footsteps upstairs, and soon Marian descended in her robe, appearing disheveled and taken aback. "What a surprise!" she exclaimed, attempting to sound cheerful but failing to conceal her unease. "I thought you were away until Friday. You didn't answer my calls." "Apologies," Leo replied with false cheerfulness. "You know how it is on the road." Pretending not to notice the wine glasses in the living room, Leo headed straight to the dining room. Marian lingered in the doorway, visibly flustered, contemplating her next move and how to prevent Leo from ascending the stairs where Terry was undoubtedly hiding. A knock at the door startled her. "Could you get that, honey?" Leo requested, diverting attention as he began arranging papers on the dining room table. He made a show of focusing on his task, deliberately ignoring how Marian stiffened before heading to the door, likely anticipating a process server bearing divorce papers. Instead, it was Leona who entered casually as Marian opened the door, offering a simple greeting. Marian trailed after Leona with curiosity as she settled at the dining room table and opened a case. "Sorry, hon," Leo interjected, adopting an apologetic tone. "I realize with my impending absence and our upcoming trip, we need to update our powers of attorney, just in case of any unforeseen emergencies. Oh, and I stumbled upon a lead over the weekend regarding refinancing the mortgage at a great rate. Since we'll both be away, I thought now might be our only chance to tackle it. Sorry for the short notice." He attempted to appear contrite. "Who's this?" Marian inquired, her tension easing as the pulsing in her temple subsided. "I'm Leona," came the reply. "Leona is a notary," Leo clarified. Marian visibly relaxed, though she still harbored a lover concealed upstairs. The situation hadn't yet spun entirely out of control. "That's my Boy Scout, always prepared," Marian remarked with a grin as she took her seat, though her eyes remained vigilant. "That's just who I am, Han," Leo affirmed, offering Marian a pen and sliding papers in front of her. "Feel free to take your time and review them if you'd like. I trust you," Marian replied with a broad smile, swiftly signing each document before her. Leo hoped she meant it for his sake, but as the saying goes, he who dares wins. As Marian signed, Leo organized the papers and passed them to Leona, who notarized them promptly. "Mrs. Clark, do you have a form of photo identification?" Leona inquired. Marian rose from the table to retrieve her purse. A shared glance between Leona and Leo nearly caused laughter, swiftly stifled as they both focused on the table. Marian returned with her driver's license. Leona snapped a photo with her phone and recorded the details in her notarial log. Marian offered coffee, which Leo and Leona declined as the latter finished her record-keeping, while Leo organized the documents into folders. Marian's gaze darted upstairs, anticipating Leo's next move, calculating her response. After Leona packed up her tools, she flashed Leo a knowing smile when Marian wasn't looking. Leo then provided Marian with an excuse, claiming he had a teleconference and needed to retreat to his basement office. Marian visibly relaxed, seeing an opportunity to usher Terry out discreetly and erase any trace of his presence before Leo resurfaced. Leo played along, feigning ignorance as he heard Terry's departure and the garage door opening. When he heard the shower running in the master bath, Leo seized the moment, gathered his belongings, and silently exited through the cellar door, leaving without a word to his oblivious wife. 2 hours later, Leo sat in Mike's office, who appeared stunned. "So, you got your wife to sign a CC 1406 form, accepting service of the divorce complaint, and waiving all future service of process and notice for any future proceedings?" Mike queried incredulously. "Yes, the properly notarized form is right here," Leo confirmed, presenting it. "And you convinced her to sign a property settlement agreement, relinquishing all proceeds from the house sale, cars, jewelry, and granting you complete discretion over her personal effects, with no alimony payments," Mike continued, astonished. "She earns more than I do anyway," Leo replied matter-of-factly. "Based on these documents, she's essentially walking away with approximately $125,000, in retirement contributions and shouldering around $200,000 in undergraduate and law school debt. Is that correct? Mike scrutinized Leo, his expression incredulous. She's always been quite generous, Leo replied evenly, maintaining a neutral demeanor. Mike narrowed his eyes at Leo, then refocused on the papers spread across his desk. And you managed to get her to sign an affidavit admitting to the adultery, even acknowledging that her lover was present in the marital bedroom at the time of signing, having spent the previous night there. And you're claiming her affidavit confirms the authenticity of an email exchange discussing her intimate encounters with her lover, stating he makes her wet. That's what you're asserting. Mike's disbelief was palpable. Counsel, Leo responded, his face devoid of emotion. The documents are self-explanatory. Mike examined the papers, then glanced up at Leo. He began to smile, suppressed it, and swiveled in his chair. Damn it. I'll file all of this. You're a respected member of the bar, a friend from law school. How was I to know you fabricated all of this? It seemed legitimate to me, Your Honor. I'm deeply embarrassed. I was completely deceived by my client's betrayal of trust. If anyone should face disbarment, it's Leonard Clark, J.D. Esquire, Your Honor. Do you follow? Mike's tone was laced with frustration. Understood, Leo replied. If necessary, this notary will testify to Marion's signing of these documents, Mike inquired. Yes, she will, Leo confirmed. And can she testify that Marion reviewed the documents carefully? Mike pressed. I wouldn't want to speculate or influence anyone's testimony. However, given Marion's experience as a litigator, I'm confident she gave the documents the attention she deemed appropriate. The notary can attest to witnessing Marion Clark examine and sign each document. I cannot comment on her understanding of their contents, Leo replied calmly. All right then, Mike responded. I'll file all of this today, along with Julian's affidavit and report. That includes the pictures and DVD. I'll try to keep it off the electronic docket for now. We don't want this hitting the news just yet, do we? No, Leo agreed. Marion's Paris trip is in a little over 2 weeks. The longer we keep this under wraps, the better. Do you have any connections at the circuit court? Remember Adam? Mike asked. He was a day student the year after us. He was struggling to land a law firm job, so now he's clerking at the circuit court to bolster his resume. He might be able to expedite things. But if a judge decides to seek live testimony, this whole plan could collapse. Marion will need to decide not to fight it for some fraud on the court reason once she catches wind of what's happening. If it goes south then, I might have to withdraw as your attorney. Understood. Leo acknowledged. One day, I'll fill you in on the full story. But for now, let's focus on the task at hand. Over the next 2 weeks, Leo maintained a distance from Marion. He sent her sporadic text messages at odd hours, claiming to be busy, but avoided answering her calls. With each passing day, her calls became less frequent. You really rattled her, Julian informed Leo at the end of the week. According to our video feed, Terry hasn't visited the house once since you showed up and caught them off guard on Tuesday morning. I can't confirm if they're meeting elsewhere during the week or keeping it strictly professional at the office, but they're definitely avoiding the house. I'll keep you posted if anything changes. The only notable change occurred when Leo quietly returned to the house while Marion was away to retrieve important financial documents. He also finalized a home sale contract with Kenny Torres, scheduled to close during the first week of Marion's trip to France. Otherwise, Leo spent his time at the gym, indulged in some leisure reading, and pondered how his life had become such a mess by the age of 30. She's back in the house with him, Julian informed Leo on Saturday, a week before Marion's scheduled departure to Paris. Thanks for letting me know, Leo replied, masking his indifference. He already had plans for the house once Marion was out of the picture. Leo had watched the video Julian had provided earlier and could understand the attraction. Terry was a few years younger, a fitness enthusiast who frequented the gym, always flaunting his physique in front of the mirror after his workouts. Other than his physical appearance, he seemed unremarkable. Leo, in comparison, maintained decent shape but lacked the chiseled abs that Terry boasted. Apparently, Marion had a preference for arm candy, a superficial trait Leo found unappealing. Before long, Marion embarked on her highly anticipated trip to Paris. One of Julian's associates trailed her to the airport, confirming her departure. Upon receiving the signal, Leo wasted no time. He went to the house, gathered all of Marion's belongings into a pile in the living room, and packed up his own possessions. The following day, movers boxed up Marion's clothes and stored them, while Leo's belongings were transported to an apartment he had secured. Thanks to Kenny Torres, the adept house flipper, Leo quickly sold off the furniture. With the house now empty, Leo took a final stroll through its rooms before embarking on his last task. Carefully, he collected the wedding photos, Marion's bridal gown, and the album. Down at the fire pit beneath the treehouse, Leo arranged the photos and album atop the charcoal, placed the gown on top, doused it all in lighter fluid, and struck a match. As the flames consumed the remnants of his failed marriage, Leo couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction, noting how the video captured every detail of the burning ceremony. A day after Marion's departure, Leo finalized the sale of their former marital home, utilizing the power of attorney she had unwittingly granted him. If only she had taken the time to read the documents she signed. With the authority granted by the separate financial power of attorney, Leo endorsed the home sale check on his wife's behalf and deposited the proceeds into his personal account, promptly closing their joint accounts. Within 3 days, during the initial week of Marion's Parisian adventure, the construction crew razed the house to the ground, swiftly clearing away the debris. Site preparation commenced shortly thereafter. Regrettably, the charming tree and its accompanying treehouse, once a haven for childhood play, had to be removed to make way for a gazebo, according to the new plat design. However, just as the construction project seemed to be gaining momentum, it abruptly ground to a halt. A hiccup in the permitting process emerged, halting progress. Leo and his law school acquaintance, who had connections within the county permitting office, remained confident that the issue would be swiftly resolved, anticipating a resolution shortly after Marion's return from France, once the necessary paperwork was in order. Throughout this period, Leo maintained a steadfast resolve to avoid communication with Marion. He ignored her calls, refrained from responding to emails, and left her voicemails unanswered. When her friends and family reached out, Leo provided terse responses, claiming to be occupied with travel, primarily to dissuade them from attempting to visit the now vacant house. El Diablo contacted him on the burner phone, mentioning that Marion and Terry appeared strained and fatigued, hinting at potential suspicions on Marion's part. When Leo inquired how El Diablo knew this, the enigmatic figure simply alluded to his extensive network, even stretching across Europe. He inquired of Leo whether he had any interest in retrieving Marion's engagement and wedding bands. Leo declined, prompting El Diablo to inquire if he objected to another party acquiring them. Hell no. Great, I might have a contact who would appreciate them. On a Wednesday just 2 days prior to Marion's return from Paris, Leo found himself in Mike's office. I have no clue how it happened, but here's the divorce decree. It's unusually quick for a case like this, and Adam wouldn't spill a thing. I'm not prying, and I don't want to know. Consider yourself fortunate, and congratulations on your newfound single status. Here's a copy for your ex-wife. I'm sure she'll be ecstatic. As Leo stepped out of Mike's office and towards his car, his phone chimed. The number was unfamiliar, but as he answered, El Diablo's distinct voice greeted him. Leo, it's time for a vacation, right now. Head to a bustling place where people know you and can vouch for your presence. El Diablo disconnected the call, leaving Leo to ponder his next move. It dawned on him that it had been too long since he last caught up with some college buddies residing in New York City. Serendipitously, their schedules allowed for a rendezvous over the next few days. Without hesitation, He boarded an Amtrak train that very day, immersing himself in the city's cultural offerings. From captivating shows to enriching museum visits, he savored lunches, coffees, and dinners with various friends, often footing the bill with his credit card. Leo made a point to generously tip the hotel staff, ensuring they recognized him. Amidst his adventures, he expedited a copy of the incriminating DVD, showcasing the burning of Marion's wedding attire and album, to her parents' home. Late Sunday afternoon, following a delightful coffee and cake indulgence in Little Italy, Manhattan, Leo's phone pierced the tranquil atmosphere. His father-in-law's urgent voice pierced through the line. "Leo, where are you?" Marion's frantic. "She's in the hospital." "Yeah, what's happened?" The unfolding situation intrigued him. She returned from her trip on Friday, but she and a coworker were reportedly abducted from the airport. They were drugged and only managed to escape this morning. The coworker was severely beaten. And Marion, her father's voice wavered, invoking a past empathy from Leo. What about Marion? When she regained consciousness, she found herself covered in tattoos from head to toe. The inscriptions are horrendous, and as soon as she came to and saw it, some masked man punched her in the face. Leo marveled at the situation. It was truly the icing on the cake, a delightful twist of fate. While he would have been content if Marion had simply realized his betrayal in court, akin to her betrayal in their marriage, this development was an explosion of jubilation. It was the kind of satisfaction that could be worth an immortal soul if he possessed one to offer. "Sorry to hear that. I'm currently out of town. What do you need me to do?" Leo responded, sensing the surprise on the other end of the line. "You're her husband. She's your wife." His father-in-law exclaimed incredulously. "Sorry. No, we're divorced. The decree came through last week. Turns out she's been unfaithful with the man she's been traveling with." "What?" What part was unclear? Leo's tone dripped with calculated cruelty, a sensation he no longer shied away from. "I have evidence. I can send you a copy if you'd like." Silence followed on the other end of the line. Leo wondered if his father-in-law was experiencing a heart attack. "She and I are finished. You'll have to arrange to bring her home. She's not my responsibility anymore." "You caused this," his father-in-law erupted. "Me? I've been in New York since Wednesday, celebrating my newfound freedom. I understand you're upset, and I hope Marion recovers soon, but I don't believe we have anything further to discuss." Leo's words were firm, leaving no room for negotiation. Leo ended the call, and a realization dawned upon him. The relentless pressure of city life had become unbearable. Without hesitation, he drafted an email to James, expressing his sentiments with a blend of courtesy and defiance. A swift online search led him to an REI store in Soho, where he promptly equipped himself with new hiking and camping gear. Camping had never been Marion's cup of tea, making this an opportunity to reconnect with his scouting roots. The hotel graciously agreed to store his belongings for a nominal fee, and soon Leo found himself en route to the Adirondack Mountains, seeking solace in nature until the storm passed. Luckily, he had his passport on hand, allowing for a potential detour to Canada. As fate would have it, he found the time. For the next 8 weeks, Leo kept his phone switched off. Initially, he assumed some deranged individual had commandeered his ex-wife's phone, given the barrage of messages, too numerous to tally, that appeared to be filled with hysterical ranting and sobbing. He barely listened to 1 or 2 before deleting the rest. The influx of absurd emails only reinforced his suspicion of a hacked account. Amidst his retreat, finding the time to sift through such madness seemed a futile endeavor. He could only hope that whoever this unhinged individual was, they sought the assistance they evidently required. 8 weeks later, Leo rendezvoused with Julian for a drink. To his surprise, Mike was also in attendance. "Let's get something straight," Mike interjected as they settled into their seats. "I terminated our attorney-client relationship right after I handed you the divorce decree. I sent you a certified letter about it. You might not have checked your mail yet." Not yet, Leo admitted. Serious shitstorm, my friend, Mike remarked. Julian, what's your take? More like a shit typhoon, Julian quipped. I like that. Shit everywhere, anyway. Lots of destruction. Mike concurred, swiftly downing his bourbon and signaling for another. Your turn, Julian, he prompted. All right, so Monday morning rolls around, and the former Mrs. Clark pays a visit to the old homestead with her parents. We hadn't gotten around to taking down the external camera. When she lays eyes on the vacant lot, it's like the dam breaks. She collapses to her knees, bawling her eyes out. Ends up curled up in the fetal position, kicking and screaming like a toddler in a late afternoon shopping mall. Then the work crew arrives with their equipment, and she loses it all over again. But it hits a peak when the construction workers catch sight of what's tattooed all over her face and start chuckling. I've got to hand it to the artist. The text shows up crystal clear on camera. Cheater. Idiot. Liar. I like to cheat, and so forth. It's plastered all over her face, neck, and hands. And this is on top of her sporting raccoon eyes from the punch. And some tape for her busted nose. Mike picked up the story. That afternoon, she and a couple of high-powered lawyers from a big firm barged into my modest office, full of bluster. Since they didn't have an appointment, I kept them waiting for 15 minutes. I discreetly ensured my Glock was loaded and within reach in my desk drawer. Thank heavens for Virginia's laws, right? After the wait, they came at me, all guns blazing, talking about emergency motions, bar complaints, and contempt proceedings. I struggled to maintain focus, the ink on their faces glaringly visible, etched in red and blue, meant to catch attention from afar. Once I managed to regain my composure, I inquired about the specific issue at hand. I asked them to pinpoint any falsehoods in the pleadings. Their collective silence spoke volumes, so I probed further, questioning if there was any dispute regarding her infidelity. They all conceded. With that, I played the recorded video from their wait, revealing Marion in a compromising position with someone who wasn't her husband, right in their marital bed. It seemed they hadn't thoroughly reviewed the case file yet. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Marion then erupted, accusing me of not giving her a chance to explain. I retorted that the reason was irrelevant. What mattered was the deed. She tried to regain control, alleging she never consented to selling the house and demanding answers about her destroyed wedding gown, photos, and album, all her personal belongings. I presented the powers of attorney, including one explicitly authorizing the sale of the home, and the property settlement agreement granting you sole discretion over her possessions, Leo explained. I reminded her she was fortunate to still have her clothes. When asked if she disputed her signatures on the documents, she faltered. Leo pressed further, questioning if her defense rested on never having read what she signed. He painted a vivid picture of the scrutiny she would face under cross-examination in court. She fell silent. Leo highlighted her affidavit, where she admitted her lover's presence during signing, challenging its veracity. That's when she fainted. Her attorneys attempted to revive her, but Leo dialed 911. She adamantly refused hospitalization. Then she began ranting about tattoos and her boyfriend's altercation, irrelevant to your case, especially considering your absence and Terry's possible entanglements. Leo directed them to the Fairfax Police Department for any criminal matters they wished to pursue. Apologies for missing all of that, Leo confessed. It gets even more interesting. Mike chimed in. They were still discussing filing a motion for reconsideration and such. That's when I dropped the bombshell. I received an anonymous email that very morning with links to videos of Marion and Terry in your bed, heating things up just before Paris. The message threatened to share these videos with everyone Marion knows unless she backed off. Did you have any clue about this? Leo inquired. I've been away, Mike, Leo replied. After Leo mentioned it, they vanished. No word from them since, and there's been no movement in court, Mike continued. Julian then shared his insight. They must have gone to the police. A couple of detectives came by, but once they got copies of the videos and the report, their interest waned. Marion and Terry couldn't recall what happened, just that they hailed a taxi at the airport and woke up in bizarre situations, one in a hospital, the other in a shady hotel room, both with questionable charges on their cards. This time, Leo informed them that the hotel manager had mentioned New York police inquiries about his stay, and his New York acquaintances had been contacted, all confirming his bustling schedule in the city. Rumor has it, Mike relayed, that your ex is laying low in her parents' basement for laser tattoo removal. The catch is, with her ink covering her from head to toe, it's costing a fortune, likely tens of thousands of dollars. Leo offered a sympathetic response, to which Mike shot him a look while Julian stifled a laugh. "And what about method?" Leo inquired. "He took quite a beating," Mike replied. "Looks like extensive physical therapy ahead. Head injuries, multiple concussions, and landing another paralegal job might be tough with his condition." Their firm had to let them both go. Their relationship tanked during the trip, which messed up the entire arbitration. Mistakes were made, exhibits were unprepared, witness outlines flawed. They lost the case, and the client wasn't pleased. The firm had to make sacrifices to salvage the client relationship. "Someday, Leo, you'll have to enlighten us on how you pulled this off," Julian remarked. "Me? I'm as innocent as they come," Leo quipped. Leona awaited him in the car as he exited. "I'm feeling a bit envious. Nobody asked me about verifying documents, or if she read them before signing. I was all prepared to testify that I witnessed her scrutinize each one, though I couldn't gauge how long she spent on it. Let's discuss over dinner. I owe you and your boyfriend a treat for your role in helping me regain my freedom." Leona glanced at him over her sunglasses as Leo reversed the car out of the parking lot. "There's no boyfriend, you fool," she remarked. Leo hit the brakes abruptly and turned to her. "Seriously, stop talking and just take me home so you can start the lengthy process of apologizing," she retorted. "Okay," Leo grinned, "but I need to make a quick stop at the post office first." "Why?" Leona inquired. "I'm sending a postcard to a friend," Leo explained, retrieving it from the glove compartment. It bore the Boy Scout emblem. "I'm asking her if she feels safe now." Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.